an escalating international dispute, Israel launched a series of diplomatic attacks against several of its Western allies as they prepare to recognize a Palestinian state next month. Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent two strongly worded letters to the leaders of France and Australia, accusing both of fueling anti-Semitism with their decision to recognize a state of Palestine. In both letters, Netanyahu cited anti-Semitic and anti-Israel incidents that occurred in recent months, linking them to the government's positions in the Gaza war and Palestinian nationhood. Well, and to discuss this detail, let's hear from international affairs analyst Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Marek, glad to have you join me on the program. Well, why is Israel not wanting to hit the ceasefire proposal from that Hamas has apparently agreed to?
Because this is its opportunity to conquer more of Gaza. The ceasefire proposal, which when eventually Hamas agreed, and it has to be said, their delay in agreeing things is not helping their cause, results in the fact that Israel is now taking the opportunity to press on, not necessarily simply to destroy Hamas, even if that is possible, but simply to put more pressure also on the Gazans, because one part of this plan is the so-called open inverted commas, voluntary, close inverted commas, immigration. And by attacking Gaza City, this might well persuade some more Gazans to emigrate, which of course is part of Israel's plan as well.
Well, from reports, this is not yet a full-fledged onslaught on Gaza. What will be the reason for them not going all out yet, as it were?
These are just the preliminary stages. We've yet to see what's going to happen. The central problem is there's a great many people in a very small space, and it remains to see how Israel will deal with this. It is quite the good news, and there is one aspect of good news, is that the army in your slide sketch, in your slide interview before, did point out the key point was that we're providing more aid. Well, this will be good news for Gaza. However, the fact of the matter is, in attacking a tightly packed civilian population, there will be deaths. Probably, assuming Hamas will be part of the deaths, but also families, children, babies, women, and non-combatants. And this is the central problem.
Has Israel, just like you said now, and the UN Secretary a while ago was speaking to that, has Israel even considered the massive deaths and destruction that will result from this, their trying to take over Gaza?
As far as one can tell, they don't really care. It's not even clear what the Netanyahu's attitude is towards the recovery of the hostages, because after all, there has been, at last, Hamas has agreed to essentially the American proposal, albeit it took them a month to do this. And it's not clear, therefore, why the assault is now, if he was genuinely concerned about the hostages. And it's unclear he cares much about the civilian population. What aid has come through us as a result of international pressure, largely because the Americans have decided to support aid coming through. And so if people die as far as one can tell. That's his attitude.
You see Netanyahu at all in any way bowing to international pressure not to continue with this dangerous trend?
No. He ignores it, and frankly, the international pressure, unless it comes from America, is simply of no interest to Israel. The UN speech, which you showed, also is irrelevant for them. And the only thing that worries them is the Palestinian statehood. But even there, what they've done is they've come on the offensive, accusing France and Australia of being anti-Semitic. Actually, strictly speaking, it has to be pointed out, the Gazans also are Semites. So in terms of anti-Semitic actions, the attack on Gaza City is, in stricto sensu, an anti-Semitic action as well. This point does not seem to be made internationally, but it is an important one because actually they are fellow Semites. Yeah. And what Netanyahu has done is simply refused to accept that the Palestinians can have any sort of freedom at all, and that's quite clear. And therefore, what he's done is attack those countries supporting it. So it's quite clear we're way far from any possibility of a settlement, let alone a two-state. And of course, there's the whole business of the new Israeli settlement to cut off East Jerusalem to take into consideration, which is almost questionably a part of the plan, because the two have come together. And therefore, in this respect, the Palestinians have never been under so great a threat.
Now, you talked about anti-Semitism. Marek, a while ago you listened to Netanyahu berate UK, Australia, and then raise the issue of anti-Semitism. Well, what do you make of his body language and the fact that he seems to, want to talk about Israel and totally excluding the fact that Palestinians also do have a right to live?
Yes, for him, they are the chosen people. He has also stated he'd like to see a greater Israel, which incidentally stretches and includes as parts of Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon. He simply does not, and this is what seems to come across, care at all for other human beings from other nations, in particular here, the Gazans, of course, the Palestinians. And unfortunately, this is becoming ever more obvious because, and this point should be stressed, Hamas has agreed to the American plan for one more round of ceasefire and hostages exchanged. There's no good reason for him to do that. Likewise, the founding of the Israeli city to cut off East Jerusalem is a quite deliberate attempt to deny the Palestinians any form of statehood or nationhood. And this is, of course, very reminiscent of South Africa, where equally the then Afrikaner government tried to deprive the South Africans of that's to say, the Black South Africans of any sort of nationhood. And in the end, of course, the South Africans won under Mandela, and was yet to see what will happen with Palestine. But it is a very similar type of, if you like, oppression, because that's what it is, of the Palestinians. It is unfortunate, but there is a body of thought, part of Zionist thinking, which has from the very word go foreseen this, and it would appear that he's implementing this plan. It should be mentioned that when Israel was founded, there were Jews who wanted to see that Israel would be actually a help to in the region and would be, as it were, a leader, helping to bring more culture and civilization. All this is gone, and what we're left with is a cold-blooded attack on Gaza City with very little justification. But Israel is outside of American influence, beyond any sort of control.
We'll talk about the settlement in a bit. But one is a little bit scandalized that the world is watching, and it's looking like the world can't do anything. They're handicapped or seemingly so. Nobody seems to be able to do anything.
Yes, quite so. In fact, it's very reminiscent to what's happening in the 1930s and 40s. There was Germany doing what it wanted, in that case killing millions of Jews, quite literally. Not just Jews, by the way. Many Poles died and Russians, but the Jews were the primary target, and Gypsies as well. And of course, what happens here is the world did nothing, which is what the Jews, of course, accuse the world to this day, not without reason. There were, of course, some minor actions, but they didn't stop the mass murder. And likewise, we're looking here now on all the many nations in the world have now recognized Palestine or want to recognize Palestine. Many condemn many Israel's actions, and Israel just doesn't care any more than Nazi Germany cared, to be quite honest. And there's nothing one can do about it because Israel is the military power in the region, and the Gazans have literally no allies who can stand up for them in any regard. So it is the 1930s in that sense, a rerun. But let us hope, please note, that the Israeli army said they were increasing the aid, they're allowing the Gazan citizens to evacuate. Hopefully that there's not a type of ethnic cleansing, because obviously it is one part of the aspect of the war, that there's this constant threat of it being an ethnic cleansing war. But this is not being stated by the Israeli army, and that must be underlined.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, before I let you go, Smotrich says the E1 settlements, bury the idea of the Palestinian state. Looks like Israel is not even interested in getting to the foundational issue of this war, which is the two-state solution.
It has no interest at all. And the people like Netanyahu have said this quite openly. Had they been interested in a two-state solution, he could have implemented it well before this hostage-taking by Hamas. He had opportunity to do so, but he stated quite openly, not on his watch. His right-wing allies say precisely the same thing. They've been saying it before, and they're saying it out loud now. So therefore, they will do their level best to ensure it doesn't happen. However, there is a really deadly aspect to this. As well as the Palestinian issue, there's the issue of the mosque in East Jerusalem, where one of his allies, yes, Gvir, went to pray, which is technically a violation. But the site is, of course, a holy site for Jews as well. And if they succeed in cutting off East Jerusalem, what's going to happen there is actually one of the hidden aspects of the whole business, because the implication is it's going to be an Israeli city, Israeli capital. What room is there for the mosque? So there's all sorts of issues. And of course, there's the whole business of settler violence. Will it just increase now, especially with Gaza cities taken successfully? So unfortunately, the future does not look good for the Gazans. We hope what the Israeli general there stated about aid will be met, and therefore we hope that this operation will not result in bloodshed for anyone, be it Gazans or Israelis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, international affairs analyst there on Israel's plan to take over Gaza, which they have ramped up now.